Finish what you started, human.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So if you've been watching my channel in the last few months, you've noticed that because I did a massive unhaul of about 300 books, that initiated a library tour, because obviously the ones I kept in the videos is like saying, and there's this, so you know, there was that element of a library tour aspect to the video. So I made that my reason to do a library tour. So I've been going through my shelves and looking at sort of some thematic stuff as well. So if you look at the playlist I've made for it, you can see that there's other things that are not just called a library tour, but other things in there as well. So I did my cartoonist collection, and there's some things that are specifically about authors. But I'm going through these shelves because these are my immediately just bought this, put it on my shelf kind of shelf. So I'm on to this shelf here, which is right at the top. So there's one more above that. So let's go through these books. Okay, so we've got The Anomaly. So I've mentioned this a few times, and it's a French book. Oh, by the way, I'm not getting it from it. I put it over there because otherwise you'd keep seeing my bum if I kept doing that. And who wants to see that? So that's why they're over here. They are on that shelf normally. So anyway, The Anomaly is a French book that has got a fantastic concept. I just need to get stuck in and read it. So two planes are on a flight. No, sorry, one plane is on a flight, and then in the air there's this anomaly that happens, and it gets split off into a duplicate. So basically the plane lands with two versions of the plane and two versions of each passenger. So that sounds interesting. And then there's Adam Roberts, The Thing Itself. So he's a science fiction writer that's really interesting and puts a lot of sort of philosophical discussion or reflection in his books, and he's just, yeah, a really interesting guy to read. So look out for that one. The Thing Itself, Adam Roberts. XTC, Songs and Stories. This is probably my favourite music related book. I love XTC, and this is a really good book. If you're interested in their songs, it's really good. It like literally analyses each song. So I've got another one over there. It does the same thing with the Beatles. But anyway, Waypoint Kangaroo. I got so excited about ordering this. I looked it up. I just found it by accident, and it sounded so interesting, and I've had it for ages. So yeah, I need to read this. This is by Curtis Chen. If you've read this, let me know if you've read it. It's like I think it's a comedy, but about parallel worlds and parallel dimensions and stuff like that. I think he gets trapped in another dimension or something. But anyway, yeah, let me know if you've read that. Waypoint Kangaroo. Revival. This is again separated from my 3 boxes of Stephen King books because this is on my immediate TBR, so I do want to read this. So this is supposed to be one of his most popular ones, so we'll see. But yeah, I definitely want to read it, and I like the setup as well, so I'm sure I will like it. I mean, I can't think of a book by him I don't like, actually. Right, so now we've got 2 small Ursula K. Le Guin books. So I've got quite a lot of Ursula K. Le Guin books, but these are just stuck on top of some bigger ones because I want to keep them handy. So this is the Wind's 12 Quarters. They're short stories, and there's like two volumes here. Yeah, I was like, what? Am I mistaken? But yeah, it says volume 1 and volume 2 in the corner here. So I wasn't going mad. And then there's Birthday of the World. So I got this for Christmas. This is another Ursula K. Le Guin short story collection. There's this time hardback, and I don't tend to choose hardbacks by choice, but this was a great present and something I'm really pleased I have. And again, she's exploring sex and gender in this collection a lot. So yeah, Ursula K. Le Guin is awesome. Black Buck. This I think is not necessarily a comedy, but slightly humorous social commentary book on racism in the modern world and connected to advertising. So Black Buck. I bought this when it came out. I should have read this by now. It's now in paperback, for God's sake. Here is. I haven't actually mentioned Blake Crouch much in this library tour, but I've got lots of his books. Anyway, this is the Wayward Pines series. So Pines and Wayward and The Last Town is the series. Really good series. They made a TV show out of it, which is, Blake Crouch is very TV friendly, but definitely recommend it. If you haven't read the Pine series, they're really good. And the first book starts off with a policeman investigating the disappearance of another policeman, and once he gets into this town, he can't leave. Why can't he leave? Well, you'll have to read it to find out. He can't leave the town. And then there's another Blake Crouch book here, which Mike's Book Reviews said this is the one he likes the least. But I was lucky enough to find this on a bookshelf, and it's Forbidden Planet. Look, Forbidden Planet, good old Forbidden Planet. It's called Abandon. So this is like a thriller kind of thing, I think, by Blake Crouch. Well, that's falling over. Hell House by Richard Matheson. So again, this one's escaped from the Richard Matheson box I've got in my loft, and awesome book, absolute classic. Here is a book about Richard Matheson. So this is a really nice book where people pay tribute to him, and it's about people's essays on him and that kind of thing. And there's even a speech that someone made about him at an event. So that's a really good book to have if you're a Richard Matheson fan. Here's another Richard Matheson related book, which is short stories by these guys that are written in tribute to Richard Matheson. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's a nice one to have. This is the second book out of the series book. I think there's only 2 books, to be fair. The Sue Burke books, which started off, what was the first one? Semiosis, which is really good, really good. Definitely recommend Sue Burke's Semiosis. And it's kind of about sentient plants. These people go onto a planet that they think is uninhabited, and they end up having to compete for possession of the land with plants, which is such a great premise. Come on. Sugatsky Brothers. So this is the Inhabited Island. I haven't read this one yet. So it's an SF Masterworks. They are most famous for Roadside Picnic, which is brilliant. And I've got a few others that they've written. And this is something I need to read at some point. So let me know if you've read that. Yeah, Inhabited Island. More Saramago. So you might have seen Saramago pop up before. There's a few up on the top shelf as well that I'll get to in a minute. The Gospel According to Jesus Christ. So he got into a bit of trouble with this one. So it's a little bit blasphemous. Why not? Saramago being blasphemous. This is a political science fiction book. So it's a science fiction book with sort of allegorical social commentary in it, called No Gods, No Monsters. It explores racism by Cadwell Turnbull. Yeah, profound and unsettling. It's kind of, I think it's like an allegory on slavery. Yeah, I haven't read it yet, so I'm dying to read this. So have you read this? Tell me if you read it, please. This is great. Let the Right One In. Again, another one I wanted to read before Halloween, but I don't know if I'll get there. And I love the film, and the book's supposed to be better. But yeah, that's a lovely part of my collection that I really need to read so I can see if I'm wrong. But as far as I know, that's one that's definitely a nice part of my collection. Another Saramago, Seeing. That's a book about what would happen if in the national elections nobody voted. So literally everybody decided not to vote. What would happen? So basically a book exploring absolute disillusion, dissatisfaction in the franchise. Classic, Gulliver's Travels. So I don't know if you've read this, but I like this edition as well. This is a really nice edition of Gulliver's Travels. It's nice and floppy, but it's got some really cool extra stuff in it. So yeah, Gulliver's Travels is a bona fide classic. And this one I mentioned earlier when I talked about Slaughter Man, The Summer We All Ran Away, Cassandra Parkin. I've recommended this book a few times, and there's a video I've done just on this book. So if you've never heard of it, go watch my video on it. It's a really good book. I really like the way she writes, but it's just a really interesting story as well. So yeah, definitely read it. That might be a better definition of a cozy read than the book I've just read, which was so cozy that nothing happened and it wasn't very interesting. Another Adrian Tchaikovsky book, Bearhead. This is the sequel, if it's the sequel, definitely in the same world as Dogs of War. So I don't know if it's directly follows on or if it's just in the same world, but Bearhead and Dogs of War is brilliant. So Tchaikovsky, Adrian Tchaikovsky, brilliant. This is another book by S.A. Cosby. So you've seen me rave about Razorblade Tears, and if you've seen any of my videos, I seem to mention it all the time. And this I bought because it's S.A. Cosby, so I was dying to read another one. And I am reading a fair bit of crime, like I've been talking about those books there, crime books. And he's such a good writer, such a good writer. This one, another Richard Matheson book, but one that you may not have heard of because it's quite an obscure one, Earthbound. So really interesting cover as well. But Richard Matheson, one of his later ones, Earthbound. I am going to do a video. Part of this library tour will be one just on Richard Matheson books, so we'll do that at some point. Right, now we've got this guy, John Wyndham. So these aren't all of my John Wyndham books, but these are the ones I have here that are in that series. So this is a special kind of design that comes from this edition. So we've got the Midwich Cuckoos, which is amazing. Stowaway to Mars, which was his second novel. His first one was not here. The second one is probably, I think it's up in the loft. The Day of the Triffids was his first one. So The Chrysalids by John Wyndham, that's another great one. Sometimes it's people's favourite. Plan for Chaos, which is a great phrase. Plan for Chaos. And The Secret People, which is awesome. Consider Her Ways, another story. So these are short stories, this one. And I've read half of that book. I need to finish it. It was good. And then The Kraken Wakes, which when I read the first 5 books I read by him and did a video on him, I said this was the weakest one for me, which it is. But I have done a video on John Wyndham because I think he's brilliant. So there's those. And then a couple more to finish. You've got Set My Heart to 5, which was one I bought from the bookshop because I read the back and it looked really interesting. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. And it looks like I can read this without the glasses. So set in a 2054, where humans have locked themselves out of the internet and Elon Musk has incinerated the moon. Set My Heart to 5 is the hilarious yet profoundly moving story of one android's emotional awakening. It's a book for anybody who has feelings, loves movies and likes to laugh and cry and sometimes do both at the same time. It comes uniquely guaranteed to make its readers weep, a minimum of 29 millilitres of tears. There we go. I am looking forward to reading this. I love that description on the back. And then one last one. This is slightly shorter than the other ones. So I've either sped through it. Oh no, I can see. I've only got through halfway. That's what it is. So maybe it won't end up being a short video. This is Bad Dolls by Rachel Harrison. I bought this recently and I'm very excited to read this. By the time this goes up, I've probably already read it because I'm filming this in September. And this is a short story book that I'm going to definitely read before Halloween. So this is kind of apparently Twilight Zone-y. So it's like a modern take on that. So yeah, Bad Dolls, Rachel Harrison. Tell me if you read that. There we go. I've got the books I'm talking about here, but they come from that shelf there. So this is the back part of the same shelf that I was looking at just then. So we've got Clowns of Death, which is a book about Oingo Boingo. The only book about Oingo Boingo. And apparently the Boingo community has said there's loads of errors in this book, but it's the only book on Boingo. So Keith Breeze wrote this book on Oingo Boingo. Another book about XTC, Chalk Hills and Children, which was the first book that ever came out about XTC. It is brilliant. But as I said, not as good as the one I mentioned earlier. Chalk Hills and Children. Anchor my feet. And this is Albion Dreaming, A Popular History of LSD in Britain by Andy Roberts, he's a bit of a hippie, and I've seen him write other stuff actually. So Albion Dreaming. And Six of Crows. So I've heard a lot about this, and I'm supposed to be buddy reading this with my daughter, Lee Bardugo. So this is kind of a YA fantasy thing about thieves. It's a heist book, so I'm sure I'll love it. You can't beat a good heist. So Six of Crows. Another Straczynski Brothers book. Monday starts on Saturday. So yeah, I think it's about like a future terrorism kind of unrest, political discourse kind of thing, I think. But part of the SF Masterbook series, I haven't read that yet. This is the only book, except for the new one to just come out, that's just been brought out, the Greek one, Ithaca, I think it's called. This is the only book by Claire North I haven't read. So yeah, I'm a big Claire North fan. I've done a video of hers, and I've mentioned her book so often in the channel, but I haven't read this one yet. And people are a bit divided about this one. So the writing style of this is a bit different. But 84K by Claire North. I've got a couple of more Ursula K. Le Guin things here. So there's Threshold, which is an early book of hers, and City of Illusions as well. So these are little. This one in particular is a little corgi one, which is cool. So I might have another copy of that actually, but not in that edition. Ray Bradbury, Shadow Show. So this is not Ray Bradbury. These authors here paying tribute to Ray Bradbury, which I think is really awesome. So in a similar way that I've got that Richard Matheson one, I could do a video on those two books together, especially as Ray Bradbury and Richard Matheson are the ones that I'm saying are the two contenders for my favourite author. Quite funny, I've got two books that are tributes like that. But yeah, Shadow Show, that's a really cool book. So Colson Whitehead's The Underground Railroad. So you've probably heard about this because lots of people talked about it when it came out. And there's still reviews coming up about it on BookTube. And it's like a conceit in the book where the Underground Railroad that helped the slaves during the slave trade is an actual railroad. So that's kind of what, because obviously it's a metaphorical idea in reality. So, yeah, there's that. This is the one I was talking about when I said I've got another book that analyses each song. This is a really good book, Revolution in the Head, that analyses every single Beatles song. So if you're a Beatles fan, or even if you're mildly curious, about the Beatles, then this is the book to get for that, because it's brilliant. Really, really good. Ian MacDonald's Revolution in the Head. This is really good. Negro Folk Music by Harold Gowlander, or Cowlander, that's a C. Cowlander. It's a really good book, and it analyses it in proper musical depth, and that tradition that became the blues is really, really important to all music, and it's a really good book that delves into that. That delves into the history of black music. So yeah, really good book. Very academic book on music, that one. Oh, look at this. I've got this. I should read these. I haven't read this yet. So the guide to getting published. So obviously I'm a writer, and I've bought these thinking, I think I found this secondhand, I'm not sure, but I bought this hoping it would help me out with me making myself more visible as a writer, and then writing fantasy and science fiction. Again, I haven't read this, but I should have read this before should have read this before writing this stuff. But anyway, this might help me, especially if I do start. I'm kind of tempted to possibly go into fantasy, because obviously most of what I write is science fiction. But I'm kind of tempted, because I do read a lot of fantasy as well. But yeah, this is a collection of different people talking about the art of writing science fiction and fantasy as well. So this is not just by one person. This is edited by different. Like if you got, it's got Orson Scott Card, a few other people there contributing to the subject. So there we go. A book set during the Black Death, 1348. Company of Liars by Karen Maitland. So I don't know if you've read this. Let me know if you have, because it's a big chunker, but it's one I really want to read. So there's Company of Liars. I think there's a few out by her. Oopsie daisy. This is one of my favourite books, a non-fiction book about primate cognition. If you get hold of it, it's brilliant. It's an absolutely brilliant guide to how primates think and our similarities with each other and that kind of stuff. It's a really, really good book. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, definitely recommend this one. Freeze the video, order it. Yeah, we've got a few things on that subject now. You've got The Bonobo and the Atheist by Frans de Waal. And this is a really good book as well. Really good book. And then Next of Kin by Roger Feltz. And an introduction by Jane Goodall in this as well. So, My Conversations with Chimpanzees. It's a really good book. Really, really good book. I am going to do a video at some point about that kind of subject. It's my copy of All the Worlds. It's a nice little hardback thing. I like that copy. Oh, there's another H.G. Wells one there. The Rights of Man. This is one of his political things. It's a very small. Yeah, Rights of Man. That's an interesting aspect to H.G. Wells, I think. H.G. Wells wasn't just one of the granddaddies of science fiction. He was also a socialist and wrote some interesting things when he talked about the way we interact and the way that society should be nicer, because society isn't nice enough. There's a book about the Bare Naked Ladies, so I'm a big fan of the Bare Naked Ladies. So again, it's very rare to find a book about some bands, and this is the only book I know of that's about them. Traditional African and Oriental music. So if I find any book like this, I get it. And I haven't found that many books like this. So, yeah, I love international folk music, which we would call world music. Sounds a bit funny, but I love all that. And I love studying it. I love listening to it. I love studying it. I love reading about it. So, yeah, this is a great book. Yeah, Fragile Things. This is a book of short fiction, short stories, and it's good. It's really good. What's in it? October in a Chair. I remember liking that one. And Bitter Grounds. Keepsakes and Treasures is good. Good Boys Deserve Favours. Strange Little Girls. Yeah, some good stuff in there. Fragile Things. Ugh. There's an N.K. Jemisin one here. So I've read the first book in the Broken Sky trilogy and then decided, after I bought the other two, that I didn't think I was going to read the next two that quickly, and I was trying to unhaul books. So I did get rid of those, but I've got this one, The City We Became, which is apparently really, really good, and it's got this great idea of these different districts in New York have got like a sentient personality. That's all I know so far, but it sounds intriguing. And yeah, I will read that soon, hopefully. This was one of my big presents last year for Christmas, and this is two nice massive volumes of Library of America, Ursula K. Le Guin. So that's what's on it. So these two big volumes feature Rocannon's World, Planet of Exile, City of Illusions, The Left Hand of Darkness, The Dispossessed, The World for World is Forest, 5 Ways to Forgiveness, The Telling, and some short stories. So tons of stuff there by Ursula K. Le Guin. I've got most of that in a different volume as well. I haven't opened it, which is a little bit weird, but hey, how cool is that? Ursula K. Le Guin box set. It was about 70 quid, so it was a big present. 3 Men in a Boat. Okay, I've found it loads of times secondhand, and I thought I'd get one in case I get the urge to read it, because Mark from Book Time with Elvis keeps talking about this is his favourite book. I don't know if it's my kind of thing, but I bought it because I like Mark, and I thought I'd give it a go. Hello, Mark, if you're watching. This, for some reason... Oh, I know why. I was thinking, why isn't the second book here? Because I've already talked about it, because it's on a more immediate... Yeah, it's there. That's the second book. This is the other 2 books in the Mistborn trilogy, the first Mistborn trilogy. So I've read that, and I loved it. Did a video on it. Final Empire. And then this is the 3rd book, Hero of Ages. So I've got all 3 books ready to go. I just need to get on to the second one. So Brandon Sanderson, my first introduction to Brandon Sanderson. Not surprisingly, I really enjoyed it. The man knows how to tell a story. And then the last one for this shelf is The Secular Bible. This is a really good book if you're interested in Christianity, but you're not a Christian, and you want to look at it from a more critical point of view, but you are interested. And I am massively interested in it, but I'm looking at it from the position of unbelief, so from a distance. And this is brilliant because it talks about how the Bible was written, why there are going to be inconsistencies in it, why it's not going to make sense, and why it's a little bit of an odd book in the way that it was written. It's really, really interesting book, because once you've read this, you think, well, there's no chance it would make sense then if this is how it was written. So yeah, Secular Bible, really good book. That is the next shelf. Please comment below on any of those books. I'll rattle through that relatively quickly because the last one is a little longer. Thank you for watching.